Remind our friend here why his kind are supposed to be dead.
I am Jedi. My people had done nothing to your empire when they set upon us.
What's up, MetaNerds? We're going to break down one of the most unique species in the galaxy, the Jedi, pulling from all these resources to understand everything from biology, history, and impact on the galaxy. The location of their homeworld is unknown, but sometime around 3640 BBY, the Sith Empire completely destroyed their civilization.
I am Jedi. My people had done nothing to your empire when they set upon us. They tore our world apart, slaughtered our children, or sold them as slaves.
All accounts say that despite the stereotype the galaxy had of them in the later millennia, they were a peaceful race with deep philosophical traditions, with numerous schools dedicated to studying the mystery and meaning of life, working to achieve what they called, quote, perfection of permanence. A way of living that saw yourself as part of an ever-changing universe, the latest squiggly bit on a convoluted path of creation stretching back unbroken to the birth of the universe. That change is an illusion. Everything is still just the latest version of the divine spark taking countless material forms. Their most influential philosophical leaders taught action without action, that chaos and destruction came from harmful meddling, trying to impose your ideals on reality. But being just a part of existence, we would always get it wrong, and it was better to just let nature take the lead. Of course, records on them are scarce, and some of these accounts come from the few that remained, but are backed up by accounts from travelers that interacted with them and visited this now lost world. There are no accounts of war in their history, and they seem to have achieved planetary peace, without any form of official government. They were mostly tribal nomads, and likely received their spacefaring tech from another alien species. But once they ventured into the stars, again we see nothing but peaceful interactions. They mostly stuck to themselves, having tribe ships that explored, took in natural wonders, and talked philosophy with alien species. And this is all most likely a result of their unique biology. The Jedi can live well past 7,000 years old. They had a body that was like a bundle of snakes, cords of muscles and nerves that each could act independently but joined together to form a single entity, organizing into a point like a human face, with 2 eyes, central nose, and a mouth full of razor-sharp teeth, with small horns that protrude along the cheeks and head. I don't say skull because even with this shape there are no bones in the entire body. The closest thing would be these teeth. This entire head seems to be the result of a complicated process where the tips of hundreds of bundles all come together, releasing something equivalent to stem cells that would then take on specialized functions while always retaining the ability to revert back. The reason most of them take a humanoid shape in general is because that shape is most common, and we may just be seeing what they look like after their space travels across the galaxy. Humanoid form is the most common due to the result of Celestials and Rakata's genetic experimentation, and while there's a ton of different species, everything from clothes, eating utensils, ship controls, and blasters were all made to be used by humanoids. It's hard to picture this, but their physical appearance may be forever shaped by their alien neighbors, and we may never know what the original form of Jedi looked like, as we can be certain that they were not just another humanoid creation. Like how the human, Twi'lek, and Zabrak are so similar that they can interbreed, as well as many other humanoids, the Jedi biology is unlike anything else out there, and probably evolved independently without alien intervention. But this look may be a cultural influence, so we can only imagine how it originally looked before exposure to so many other humanoid aliens. These bundles of pink and purple snakes moving around and forming organs like ears and eyes and all sorts of different forms in order to perceive the world around them. And while those cells could specialize and make organs like we see in the head, there are no vital organs. And this is why I say their philosophy may be influenced by their biology. There is no head of state, no hierarchy, and they see themselves as a bundle of circumstances coming together. A person is just a collection of elemental parts, which are all themselves made of the same stuff. Yet you get this strange emergent phenomena that we call the self, which is seemingly so different from all those parts. Take a moment to honor those lost Jedi philosophers, and realize how funny it is that you think the biology of this species is odd. How silly that sounds. Just putting a bunch of the same parts together in special formations, giving you these unique individuals. Think about how ridiculous that is using your neurons. Let me pause to thank BetterHelp for sponsoring this video. BetterHelp is the world's largest therapy service, and it's 100% online. With BetterHelp, you can tap into their network of over 25,000 licensed and experienced therapists that can help you with a wide range of issues. To get started, you just answer a few questions about your needs and preferences when it comes to therapy. That way, BetterHelp can match you with the right therapist from their network. Then you can talk to your therapist however you feel comfortable, whether it's through chat, text, or a video or phone call. You can message your therapist at any time and schedule therapy sessions when it's convenient for you. If your therapist isn't the right fit for any reason, you can switch therapists for no additional charge. With BetterHelp, you get the same professionalism and quality you'd expect from in-office therapy, but with a therapist who's custom-picked for you, there's more scheduling flexibility, and at a more affordable price. Get 10% off your first month at betterhelp.com/MetaNerdz. That's betterhelp.com/MetaNerdz. I've also linked them down in the description. While on top of the mystery of consciousness, there is the speed at which these strands can reassemble or move, giving them what felt like near-instant reflexes and unmatched agility. No terrain was an obstacle to this type of motor system, and it isn't that they are indestructible, it just seems that way due to them being in this constant stem cell-like state. Let's say a philosophical debate got too heated and someone emptied a blaster into them. Each of those burnt-through holes would be sealed, and cell regeneration was started in that instant. All species have some form of wound healing. It is just that every part of their body is constantly in this growth and repair state, and able to react in a blink, while having no centralized thing to target. Humans only fail due to blaster shots because of blood loss, some nerves are cut off to vital organs, or the organ itself was destroyed. And since there could be some specialization of organs, let's say even a non-human shaped distribution of eyes, ears, and mouth, that regen feature just means that when you blast off its eyes, it grows new eyes. Again, this stem cell thing in the cells means that those eyes could pop out on its fingers, and just morph around into different shapes, regenerating new organs to perceive the threat. So mix their philosophy with just how hard it is to kill them, and you could see why war was truly not a solution for any of their problems. What is never addressed is how they subjectively feel pain. Just because they don't die easily, this doesn't mean they don't feel it. I think they suffer at a much greater rate than almost any other species, since we do get details that their sensory acuity can be so high that they could feel a human's heartbeat from up to 200 meters away. They're extremely sensitive, so when they did become warriors, every time they seemed like unstoppable gods, they were using their monk minds to overcome this intense pain, feeling every blow, strike, flame, and bolt worse than your average species. In the conversation between the Flame and an Imperial officer, we see that the Sith forces had a protocol for dealing with their regenerative ability.
Jedi have no hearts or brains to fail. The only way to destroy them is to shred the bodies and scatter them. But we proved 1 billion times over that they're not immortal, right, Jedi? How many of you crawled away? 2? 10?
The Flame was one of the best examples of how a good Gendai would operate. He unified many of the oppressed species on Nar Shaddaa, those like the Twi'lek who had been brutalized by the Sith Empire, and their resistance movement came to see him as a sort of mythological figure, while most of the imps were terrified of him.
They call him the Flame, and we have killed him twice. Each time he reappears. The locals claim he's immortal.
The Flame would hang the bodies of Imperials in the public square for all to see, one of the most brazen challenges to the Empire from anyone in this era. Admiral Joffin led the original attack on the Gendai that started all this, and the philosophical warrior wanted his revenge.
You were not one of the Sith who came to my world to destroy it. It is the Admiral who led that attack. It is the Admiral who will die for it. In fact, every species here has suffered an unprovoked attack by your Empire.
This creature should not exist. His species is a mockery of humanity, of nature. He's led a rebellion against the Empire, he's burned our factories, killed Imperial soldiers.
Here the story split. Some say the Gendai was killed that day, others say that he was sent into exile.
Perhaps there is yet a place in the galaxy where it is possible to live in peace.
With his departure showing a glimpse of the peaceful, honorable behavior that most associated with his species, and leaving him alive could cause rare moments of mercy and self-reflection in the high-ranking imps.
There are certainly reasons one might have to hate the Empire. Perhaps we all deserve a second chance.
There are several factors that compounded the devastation of their homeworld, dooming these people after these Imperial attacks. One is that they had very low birth rates. This would make it harder to quickly repopulate. The other was that a disproportionate number of younger men were killed in the fighting. The few that survived were those not fit for combat. And with all the amazing benefits of being an unkillable purple spaghetti monster, when those nerve bundles degenerated, things went real crazy real fast. The second thing they were best known for is their nerve degeneracy-induced psychosis. When they finally did reach their elder years, this degeneracy caused extremely violent outbursts and radical changes in personality. Many of them would go into self-imposed exile as these effects started, where they often quickly rose through the ranks of the underworld to become powerful mercenaries, bounty hunters, and warlords. If it bleeds, it leads, and tales of unkillable, massive, warm-bodied demons stuck in the minds of people a lot more than the accounts of just another countless alien world being destroyed by the Empire. Beings like the Locust more fit the new stereotype from this era on, a mindless, killing machine that was nearly impossible to bring down. While the Hutts also sought out their talents like seen with the armies gathered under Sunder. There was one group of Jedi survivors on the Republic world of Belsavis, but when the Sith forces blew open an ancient vault, a deadly virus was released, and researchers were having a tough time stopping the spread. They finally determined that the Jedi had become the perfect host. While the virus killed most within a few hours, due to their regeneration, their bodies were able to fight it off, but never fully eradicate the virus from their bodies. This caused a debate among the Republic leadership to just kill these few Jedi, or attempt the latest antidote and see if that worked to finally eradicate this virus.
If they aren't killed, they'll eventually infect the entire planet.
Or we could cure them. Jansen doesn't agree, so that makes you these creatures' best hope. I can give you the antidote.
Beyond Belsavis, the tribe of nomads wandering the stars set up their own small communities, wanting to stay out of galactic affairs altogether. And it is unclear if over the next 3 millennia, if any ever found a rock in the galaxy to call their new home, or if those groups just stayed isolated and spread out. Dirge would be born sometime around 2000 BBY, but would suffer early nerve degeneracy, and in the final century of the Republic, he was considered to have gone into full psychosis. Though his tribe had been worried about him early on. Even as a youth, he showed high levels of aggression, and he was drawn to becoming a bounty hunter at the first moment he saw one. While all other recorded Jedi only left once the nerve degeneration kicked in, he fled from his people with an insatiable lust for the hunt. He molded himself into a humanoid armor suit which paired his biological advantage with the technological options usually seen only in the Mandalorians. And it would be a Mandalorian that took him in and trained with him. Though he and his mentor were betrayed, he would continue collecting bounties for the next 2 millennia, earning him riches that must have totaled up to be in the hundreds of millions, if not billions of credits, fighting for and against the Sith, killing many Jedi, and eventually even Mandalorians, even killing the Mandalore around 100 years before the Battle of Yavin. You will get a full complete life video, but in case you only see this, I really want to sneak in this point, that it isn't that big a stretch to see Dirge as being the catalyst for the downfall of the Mandawade. It's true that they always had a tumultuous history, but never as fractured and divisive as we see them in the final century of the Republic, with warring factions bubbling up for decades, civil wars that a young Jango Fett would get pulled into, where they would destroy the surface of their home world decades before the Clone Wars, only to be fractured by Maul's reign and then the Imperial conquest. With Dirge killing the sole ruler, the Mandalore, around 130 BBY, the shock and instability that brought could have been what set all this in motion. He would go on to be one of the greatest terrors of the Clone Wars, with one of his biggest draws to the CIS being the opportunity to kill countless Mandalorians, as he considered the clone troopers of Jango Fett, with their Mando culture and Mando-style armor, to be close enough to true Mandalorians to bring him great joy as he slaughtered them. Operation Dirge's Lance was one of the greatest campaigns of the war, but General Skywalker would finally defeat him. Skywalker and Kenobi would sneak into a ship, and eventually Anakin was able to use explosives to blow the Jedi's helmet off, burning his face, losing a hand, and suffering several saber slashes. Skywalker understood that even if none of these individual blows killed Dirge, his strange body still had to use up energy to repair itself, and overall would reduce his willpower. While Dirge boasted, Skywalker force-pushed him into an escape pod, which was set on a collision course with a nearby star. Watching to make sure the pod and its contents were vaporized, his face screaming as the highly sensitive, massive body of trillions of nerve endings was burned alive. While Anakin is hit through the Force by this massive pain Dirge suffered in death. But his legacy would live on, as scientists in the Imperial era dreamed of using Jedi warriors, inspired by the tales of Dirge's Lance. Around 1.5 ABY, a lab on Dantooine would head Project Dirge, with scientists being given a mess that they could barely call a life form, but by keeping its limbs and organs together, it recovered at a rate never seen before. Though its body never fully healed, so the creature was placed in this battle armor suit, before it escaped and was eventually killed by Boba Fett. While this project is named after Dirge, and the specimen does show great regeneration, I think it's a different species. It could have been parts of Dirge blown off during his final battle with Anakin, pink goo scraped off the walls and kept alive, but that wouldn't be described as limbs and organs. So this points that the Imperials didn't have a true understanding of the elusive Jedi species, or simply were just inspired by Dirge, the closest thing to this unnamed specimen. And of course we'll learn more about Ravis coming soon, the leader of the Bedlam Raiders during the Imperial era, but who fought Jedi during the High Republic era. As for behind the scenes facts, Dirge's quick adapting strange blob worm body was inspired by Akira, and for as obscure as he became, he's going to play a big role in an official movie launch, with Lucasfilm wanting a memorable bounty hunter that would challenge Jedi for the Clone Wars miniseries building up to the Revenge of the Sith. And then for the Clone Wars show, Filoni and Gilroy thought about reimagining Dirge into a human character, keeping the same cool armor, but just a human underneath, but luckily they dropped this and designed a new bounty hunter in the form of Cad Bane. If you want to look more into the Jedi, here are the main sources used. please hit that like button, it's the best way to help me out. And check out one of these other videos, I'm sure you'll like them. But most important of all, remember, only fight a Gendai near some form of major shredder or incinerator, and the Force will be with you, always.